The Galactic Council's meeting chamber floated in the darkness of space like a giant crystal dome. Inside, alien leaders from hundreds of worlds argued loudly. Holograms of burning human colonies flickered in the air. The war against humanity had ended weeks ago, or at least that was what they believed. The Council's supreme speaker, a tall creature with 6 glowing eyes, raised his clawed hand for silence. "Order," he said. "The human colonies are gone. Earth is surrounded. Their fleets are destroyed. The humans have fallen." A wave of satisfaction moved through the chamber. Many species had hated humanity for years. Humans had expanded fast, reaching distant stars, building strong defenses. They were stubborn, dangerous, and clever. The Council decided they were too risky to let grow, so they united their forces and attacked. Billions of humans died. Entire cities burned. Their colonies were wiped out like dust. The speaker looked around. "This is the age of peace," he declared, but peace did not come. At the far end of the chamber, a young communication officer rushed in, his pale blue skin shining with fear. He held a glowing data chip. "Supreme Speaker," he gasped, "a signal." From Earth. The room fell silent. Every eye turned toward him. A signal? That was impossible. Earth had been locked down, surrounded, its skies filled with alien warships. No human message could escape. "Play it," the speaker ordered. The chamber darkened. A single line of human code appeared in the air. Then a voice, cold, clear, and human, echoed through the dome. "You wanted monsters. You'll get them." The message ended. No static, no trace, just silence. The council members stared at each other. Some laughed nervously. Others shifted in their seats. The speaker's eyes narrowed. "Is that all?" "Yes," the officer whispered. "That is all." A deep unease spread across the room. For centuries, humans had been known for their resilience. They adapted, they survived, and they always fought back. The Council had expected surrender, but this message felt different. It was not the voice of defeat. It was a promise. An admiral from the Vortic Empire slammed his metallic hand on the table. "This is a trick," he growled. "Their last scream before extinction." But an old alien scholar shook her head slowly. Her long white tendrils moved like water. "No," she said softly, "this is not a scream. This is the sound of a storm coming." Outside, in the cold void near Earth's orbit, alien fleets floated in silence. Thousands of ships surrounded the blue planet like a steel cage. But inside this cage, something was changing. For weeks, alien patrols had noticed strange things. Empty human stations with lights still on. Abandoned mining colonies where the machinery kept running, but no bodies were found. Some ships reported shadowy movements on their scanners. Others spoke of strange energy readings deep within Earth's atmosphere, but their reports were dismissed as fear or malfunction. After all, the humans were beaten. What could they do now? A week later, a small alien scout ship was sent to check a silent human relay station at the edge of the solar system. It was a routine mission. 3 crew members, light weapons. Nothing unusual. The scout ship entered the dark station's orbit. Its captain, a young reptilian officer, adjusted his scanners. "No life signs," he said. "But power is still active. Strange." They sent a drone inside. The station's halls were empty, but lights flickered. Doors opened and closed slowly, like the building was breathing. Suddenly, the drone's signal vanished. No explosion, no sound, just darkness. The captain frowned. "Recall the drone." Nothing returned. The crew decided to enter manually. The airlock opened. The captain and 2 soldiers floated in, their lights cutting through the darkness. The station was cold and silent. Strange scratches marked the walls, deep, sharp like claws on metal. "Who did this?" One soldier whispered. Suddenly the station's lights went out completely. Alarms screamed. A blur moved through the hallway, fast, silent. One soldier fired blindly. Something grabbed him and pulled him into the dark. His scream was the last sound they heard. The captain rushed back toward the ship. He slammed the emergency door, breathing hard. "Launch!" he shouted. But it was too late. The scout ship's engines roared to life, but on the station's hull, something massive and black had attached itself. It was invisible to scanners. The ship vanished from communication seconds later. Hours later, the patrol fleet found only floating wreckage. The hull was torn open, like something had ripped it apart with claws. The crew was gone, no bodies, no escape pods. The patrol commander sent a message to the council. Something is out there, and it's not us. Back in the chamber, fear spread like wildfire. Reports of missing ships increased. Strange shadows appeared on long-range sensors. Whole fleets stopped sending updates. The speaker slammed the table. "We must crush Earth completely," he said. "No more games." But deep down, many of them already felt it. Something had changed. The humans were no longer defending. They were preparing. Above Earth's atmosphere, far beyond alien eyes, massive black ships slowly came to life. Their engines were silent. Their hulls were invisible to most senses. They waited in the dark like predators before the hunt. The signal had been sent. The silence was over, and the monsters were waking up. The weeks after the signal felt strangely quiet. Alien fleets still surrounded Earth, confident that victory was complete. But something about the silence was different now. Before, humans would always resist. They would send desperate messages, fight small battles, or launch sudden counterattacks. Now there was nothing, no movement, no sound, no resistance. It was as if the entire species had vanished. Across the galaxy, alien governments celebrated. They held public parades and broadcast their success. Millions of citizens cheered as images of destroyed human cities flashed on giant screens. They called it the end of Earth's ambition. Alien leaders stood on stages, declaring the galaxy safe from the human threat forever. They believed the nightmare was over. But in the shadows, some commanders and scientists were uneasy. Strange reports had begun to spread. A supply convoy near a distant nebula vanished without sending a distress signal. A patrol squadron near Saturn reported seeing a massive dark shape passing through the asteroid belt, then went silent. A listening station on the edge of alien-controlled space detected faint energy bursts that didn't match any known technology. The Council dismissed these as errors, but whispers grew louder. Something was moving out there just beyond their reach. Inside the alien blockade, Earth appeared calm. Satellites orbited quietly. The cities were silent. The alien observation drones showed no large human military activity. It was as if humanity had given up completely. Many alien officers laughed at the signal they had received. They called it a dying growl. They did not see it for what it truly was, a warning. Far below the surface of Earth, inside massive underground bunkers, humans were not celebrating or surrendering. They were watching. In silence, hidden deep beneath oceans and mountains, humanity's last military and scientific minds worked around the clock. For years, secret programs had been built far away from alien eyes. Old fleets had been dismantled, not because they were weak, but because new ones were being forged. Ships made of black armor, powered by silent engines, equipped with technology the aliens had never seen, waited in hidden shipyards. Humanity had chosen to disappear on purpose. All communications with the galaxy were cut off. Not a single message escaped their new defense net. To the outside world, humanity looked broken. Inside, they were becoming something else, something terrifying. At the edges of alien-controlled space, more incidents occurred. A patrol fleet sent to monitor the Kuiper Belt failed to return. Another exploration group sent toward a dead human colony reported strange readings before contact was lost. One alien captain described seeing a shape the size of a city drifting among the asteroids. It had no lights, no identifiable markings, and no visible engines, but it moved like a predator stalking prey. His last transmission was a single sentence: "They're not gone. They're waiting." In response, the Council ordered several elite fleets to tighten their patrols. Hundreds of ships swept through the void, scanning every corner. They found nothing but cold space and drifting rocks. The mystery only grew deeper. Some alien scientists began to analyze the human signal again. They discovered strange layers hidden within the message, patterns that didn't match normal encryption. It was as if the signal carried a second, hidden meaning that only humans could fully understand. Panic started to rise quietly among those who could read between the lines. Meanwhile, inside a massive hidden base beneath Antarctica's ice, human leaders gathered in a dark command chamber. Holograms of alien fleet positions floated in the air. Their commander, an older woman with sharp eyes, stood silently, watching every movement. She spoke slowly and clearly. "They think we are weak. They think we are finished. Good. Let them believe." Around her, officers nodded. Engineers worked on silent engines that could hide ships from almost all detection methods. Soldiers trained inside underground arenas, adapting their tactics to strike fast and vanish. Humanity was preparing not just for war, but for a new kind of war, a shadow war. Above the planet, alien surveillance systems continued to observe. They saw nothing unusual, but they never looked deep enough. The humans had learned how their enemies thought, how their senses worked, how their fleets moved. For years they had studied the aliens. Now they were using that knowledge to disappear completely. One night, an alien patrol ship drifting near the moon picked up a faint energy pulse. It was brief, almost like a heartbeat. The captain thought it was a glitch, but then it repeated. He tried to trace the source, but the signal vanished. Later that night, the patrol ship itself disappeared without a trace. No explosion, no distress call, just silence. The council called it an accident. But some military officers knew better. Quietly, they began reinforcing their borders, moving fleets into defensive positions. A few even advised preemptive strikes to flush out whatever humans were planning. Their warnings were ignored. Most alien leaders were too busy celebrating their supposed victory. But among alien civilians, fear slowly began to grow. Stories spread across the galaxy, stories of dark shapes drifting through deep space, of fleets that vanished overnight, of strange signals echoing from the void. Traders began avoiding human space. Explorers refused to take assignments near Earth. The silence was no longer comforting. It was terrifying. And then one night, long-range scanners at a distant alien outpost detected something new. A dark structure the size of a small moon was moving slowly through an asteroid field. Its surface reflected no light. Its engines made no sound, but it moved with purpose. The outpost's commander stared at the screen, frozen. "That's not a station," he whispered. "That's a fortress." The transmission was cut short. The council tried to investigate, but by the time their fleets arrived, the asteroid field was empty. No structure, no trace, only a strange residual energy that none of their scientists could identify. The silence around Earth continued, but now it felt alive. It was no longer the quiet of defeat. It was the quiet before a storm. The galaxy had celebrated too soon. Something was waking in the dark. And when it finally moved, the universe would remember the signal. You wanted monsters. You'll get them. The alien high command finally decided to act. The silence coming from Earth and the strange disappearances had shaken their confidence. At first, they believed it was just scattered human survivors causing trouble, but as more fleets went missing, they grew uneasy. To end the mystery, they organized a massive reconnaissance operation. Hundreds of warships from different empires formed a united task force and moved toward the edge of human territory. Their goal was simple: find whatever was hiding and destroy it before it became a real threat. The fleet advanced through the cold void with heavy scanners running at full power. Drones swept ahead, scanning every asteroid and abandoned station. At first, everything seemed normal. Empty space, broken satellites, cold rocks. It almost made them feel foolish for worrying. But deep inside, many captains felt the tension. The silence around them was too perfect, like a trap waiting to close. Near the asteroid belt, the leading cruiser picked up faint energy fluctuations. They were rhythmic, almost like a pulse. The signals were too weak to trace, but they were definitely artificial. The alien admiral ordered the fleet to stop and deploy sensor arrays. Suddenly the pulse vanished. The void returned to silence. The crews exchanged nervous glances. Then one by one, the fleet's sensors began to fail. First, the long-range scanners went dark. Then communication links between the ships started cutting out. Static filled their comm channels. Pilots tried to re-establish the network, but couldn't. It was as if something massive was interfering with their entire system. A few moments later, the outer picket ships detected movement. A dark shape was drifting toward them, large and silent. It didn't match any known design. At first they thought it was an asteroid, but the shape began to change. Panels unfolded like black wings. Its surface absorbed all light, making it almost invisible against the stars. Before anyone could react, the shape accelerated. It was impossibly fast for its size. It tore through the first line of ships like a blade cutting paper. Explosions rippled through the darkness. The alien fleet opened fire, but their targeting systems struggled to lock on. The enemy ship seemed to vanish between sensor sweeps, reappearing only to strike again. In the chaos, a smaller alien vessel managed to record part of the attack. The footage showed a massive black warship, longer than any alien dreadnought. Its hull was smooth and layered with strange armor that bent light around it. Its weapons were unlike anything seen before. Pure kinetic lances that punched through shields and hulls in seconds. There was no warning, no radio chatter, no attempts to communicate. It moved with cold precision. The alien admiral ordered a full retreat, but before the fleet could jump, hundreds of small black craft appeared out of the asteroid belt. They were like swarms of insects, fast and coordinated. They sliced through the alien formations, targeting engines and communication arrays first. One by one, alien ships went silent, drifting dead in space. Panic spread. The admiral shouted for reinforcements, but the long-range comm relays were jammed. Their fleet was completely isolated. Ships tried to escape in every direction, but the black craft hunted them down. One commander screamed over the radio, "They're everywhere!" And then his transmission ended in static. Within 20 minutes, the once mighty reconnaissance fleet was in ruins. Only a handful of ships managed to flee. They jumped blindly into hyperspace, damaged and terrified. The rest were either destroyed or left drifting. When rescue teams later found the wreckage, they discovered hulls carved with deep claw-like marks, as if something had torn through them by hand. Entire crews had vanished without a trace. Back at the council, the surviving captains gave their reports. Their voices shook as they described the Black Fortress ship and the swarm that followed it. Some council members accused them of lying or exaggerating. But then, the recovered footage was played in the chamber. The entire room fell silent. The alien leaders watched as the black warship emerged from the darkness, moving with eerie grace. They watched alien ships explode like fireworks against its invisible armor. They heard nothing from the human side. No threats, no speeches, no commands. Only silent destruction. Panic rippled through the chamber. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others wanted to seal off human space completely and never go near it again. A few whispered that maybe humanity should have been wiped out faster. The speaker slammed the table and demanded order, but fear was spreading too quickly. Across the galaxy, news of the fleet's destruction spread fast. Civilizations that once cheered the fall of humanity now spoke in whispers. Merchants avoided human space entirely. Border colonies began reinforcing their defenses, even though they had no idea what they were defending against. The unknown was worse than any open enemy. Meanwhile, in the darkness near the asteroid belt, more black warships emerged. They were enormous, silent, and coordinated. They didn't move like a regular fleet. They moved like hunters surrounding their prey. Their formation was designed to trap, not defend. It became clear that the attack on the reconnaissance fleet wasn't random. It was a test. Humanity had waited until the perfect moment to strike, and now the galaxy knew they had returned, not as victims, but as something far more dangerous. On a distant alien space station, a communication officer stared at a repeating message that had just appeared on his screen. It came from deep space, encoded in a way only humans used. The words were simple. "You wanted monsters. Monsters are coming." The officer froze. He tried to report it, but his terminal shut down. When he rebooted, the message was gone. His supervisors didn't believe him. But a few days later, that station went offline too. No distress call, no survivors, just silence. In the weeks that followed, more fleets disappeared at the edges of human territory. The council tried to keep it secret, but rumors spread like fire. Some alien worlds began to evacuate border sectors entirely. Others started arming civilian ships. Fear had turned into quiet dread. Everyone could feel it. The humans were no longer hiding. They were hunting, and somewhere in the darkness, beyond the reach of any alien scanner, the fortress fleet prepared for the next move. The galaxy had seen the first strike. What was coming next would not be a warning. It would be war. Alien space was no longer calm. The attack on the reconnaissance fleet had changed everything. Rumors moved faster than official reports, and whispers spread across every star system like a cold wind. Merchant ships rerouted their paths to avoid the edge of human territory. Patrol fleets doubled their numbers. Border stations began building emergency bunkers. No one admitted it publicly, but the galaxy had begun to fear the silence coming from Earth. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, leaders argued day and night. Some demanded a full-scale invasion to crush whatever humans were building in the dark. Others begged for peace talks, hoping to avoid a war they weren't sure they could win. The Supreme Speaker pounded his clawed hand on the table. "They are just humans," he growled. "We defeated them once. We will do it again." But beneath his confident words, even he felt uneasy. The footage of the Black Fortress ship haunted him. He replayed it alone at night. The way it moved, the precision of its attacks, the complete silence. It was not the desperate flailing of a dying race. It was the cold, calculated action of a predator. Across the galaxy, the Council assembled the largest battle group ever formed. It was a combined fleet from several empires, made of thousands of warships, carriers, and artillery stations. They gathered at the border of human space, engines burning bright. Their mission was simple: enter human territory, find the source of these black ships, and destroy it completely. They called it Operation Final Dawn. In deep space, hidden far beyond ordinary senses, the humans watched. Dozens of fortress ships drifted silently in formation, waiting. Their black armor blended perfectly with the void. Their engines produced almost no detectable signatures. To alien scanners, they were ghosts. But their crews were alive, alert, and ready. Inside one of the human command ships, the atmosphere was calm. Officers worked at their stations without speaking loudly. The commander, a tall woman with cold eyes, stood before a holographic projection of the enemy fleet gathering at the border. She watched their movements like a hawk tracking prey. Her voice was quiet but firm. "They're coming," she said, "and we're ready." The alien fleet began its approach. Their ships entered human territory slowly, scanning every asteroid, every empty station. The deeper they moved, the more nervous they became. There were no defenses. No ships, no stations, just empty space. It was too quiet. Suddenly, their long-range communication systems began to fail. One by one, ships lost contact with their neighbors. Static filled the comm channels. The fleet's admirals ordered tight formations, but the silence only grew heavier. Then it happened. Dozens of Black Fortress ships decloaked at once, surrounding the alien fleet from all sides. Their sudden appearance shattered the darkness. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't demand surrender. They simply opened fire. The alien fleet fired back with everything they had. Lasers, plasma cannons, railguns, all lit up the void. But the human ships were built for this moment. Their shields bent energy beams away like water. Their kinetic weapons punched through alien armor with brutal efficiency. Entire alien cruisers vanished in blinding flashes within seconds. The alien admirals screamed for regrouping, but their formations collapsed almost instantly. The Black Fortress ships moved like sharks through water, cutting off escape routes, isolating groups of enemy ships, and destroying them methodically. They didn't fight like a desperate force. They fought like something that had practiced this for years in the dark. Alien pilots tried to ram some of the black ships, but they never made it close. Automated turrets intercepted them with perfect accuracy. Others tried to retreat, but their jump drives were targeted and disabled before they could escape. In the middle of the chaos, the alien flagship sent a desperate signal to the Council. The transmission was brief, filled with static and panicked voices. One clear sentence was heard before the signal died: "They've changed. We can't stop them." Back at the Council, the leaders watched as the signal ended abruptly. No reinforcements arrived. No survivors returned for several days. When the few damaged ships finally limped back, their crews were broken. Some refused to speak. Others repeated the same words over and over. They were waiting for us. News of the fleet's destruction spread across the galaxy. Civilizations that had once mocked humanity now began to prepare for war. Entire border regions were evacuated. Civilian traffic stopped completely near human space. Even powerful empires that had led the war against Earth years ago started to hesitate. Meanwhile, human fleets moved deeper into alien territory. They struck fast, hitting supply routes and communication hubs. They didn't conquer planets, they isolated them. They wanted to break the galaxy's confidence piece by piece. One night, in a distant alien outpost, a lone communication officer picked up a strange signal. It was the same human voice that had started everything, calm, cold. "You wanted monsters," it said. "We're just getting started." The outpost went dark minutes later. On hundreds of alien worlds, people stared up at their night skies with fear. They imagined black fortress ships drifting just beyond their senses, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Armies were mobilized. Fleets scrambled, but no one knew where the next attack would come from. The humans had disappeared once. Now they moved like a shadow spreading through the stars. Their silence was no longer weakness. It was their greatest weapon. Inside the council chamber, panic turned to desperation. Some leaders demanded immediate surrender. Others screamed for more fleets. But deep down, they all knew the same thing. The galaxy had awakened something it could not control. The humans were no longer defending their world. They were reshaping the war, and they were doing it on their terms. Far away, in the endless dark, the fortress fleets aligned. Their engines lit up faintly, like the eyes of beasts ready to hunt. The war had truly begun, and the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to ask for monsters. The galaxy trembled. The destruction of the massive Allied invasion fleet spread panic faster than any weapon could. Every broadcast network replayed fragments of the battle, glimpses of enormous black fortress ships tearing through alien armadas like paper. Civilian ships fled border systems, trade routes went dark, and once proud military commanders stared at star maps with growing fear. No one had expected humanity to return this way. They had expected survivors, maybe resistance fighters. But what they were seeing were hunters, cold, silent, and unstoppable. Across countless alien worlds, governments scrambled to organize defenses. Emergency meetings stretched for hours. Some demanded peace talks, others demanded retaliation, but none had a clear answer. The Galactic Council, which once stood united in crushing Earth, was fracturing under the weight of fear. Old alliances began to break as empires blamed each other for underestimating humanity. On the outer edges of alien-controlled space, distress calls began pouring in. Small colonies and listening posts vanished overnight. Patrol fleets reported being followed by unidentified dark shapes, only to go silent minutes later. One commander described seeing something the size of a mountain slide out from behind a moon, moving without light, without sound. His message ended mid-sentence. No wreckage was found. In one sector, a heavily fortified supply hub suddenly went offline. Dozens of warships were stationed there, along with thousands of soldiers. Rescue fleets arrived 3 days later and found the station drifting quietly in space. Its defenses had been shut down without a fight. All ships were powered off. Inside, every soldier and officer had disappeared. There were no signs of battle, no scorch marks, no broken walls, just eerie silence. On one wall, written in black char marks, was a single sentence in human language: "This is the beginning." The psychological impact was devastating. Whole star systems began to question whether fighting was even possible anymore. Civilian uprisings broke out on worlds far from the front lines, demanding their governments withdraw from the war entirely. Fear was spreading like wildfire, and it wasn't coming from propaganda. It was coming from the terrifying efficiency of what the humans were doing. Inside the fortress fleet, humanity continued to move with precision. Deep within the command vessel, human strategists studied alien reactions. Every panic broadcast, every fleet redeployment, every emergency defense measure, they watched it all unfold on massive tactical displays. A young officer pointed at a growing cluster of alien ships gathering near a key border world. "They're preparing another strike," he said. The commander, standing silently at the center of the room, nodded slowly. Her voice was calm, almost emotionless. "Then that's where we will show them what monsters look like." The human fleet divided into smaller groups. Each moved through space like shadows, using cloaking technology and silent drives. They struck multiple alien sectors at the same time: supply lines, communications relays, logistics hubs. Instead of direct conquest, they focused on cutting the galaxy apart piece by piece. Whole empires began losing contact with their neighbors. Fleets were stranded without resupply. Panic grew as leaders realized they couldn't even talk to each other without risking interception. At the same time, humanity began broadcasting short encrypted messages on alien frequencies. The messages weren't demands for surrender. They were warnings. "You wanted monsters? We are here. Your fleets will break. Your fear will spread. This is the cost of genocide." These messages had no source. They simply appeared and vanished like echoes from the dark. In one daring maneuver, a group of human fortress ships appeared above an alien shipyard that had once built the Council's largest war machines. Without warning, the black ships opened fire with kinetic lances so powerful that the shipyard was ripped in half before alarms could sound. Thousands of alien workers tried to flee in escape pods, but even those were intercepted with cold precision. Within 7 minutes, the entire shipyard was gone, and the fortress ships disappeared into the darkness without leaving a trace. The Council tried to respond by gathering more fleets, but their movements were predictable. Every time they prepared an offensive, human scouts appeared on their sensor edges, never attacking, just watching. The psychological weight of being constantly observed wore down alien crews. Some ships mutinied rather than enter human territory. Others fled mid-mission, abandoning their posts entirely. In the midst of this chaos, the Supreme Speaker gave a desperate speech to the galaxy. "We must stand together," he declared. "If we do not stop these monsters now, no one will be safe." But even as he spoke, a massive explosion rocked a Council military hub. A single human fortress ship had slipped through their defenses and struck the heart of their fleet staging area, destroying hundreds of ships on the ground. The message came seconds later, broadcast across every channel: "Monsters do not knock. They enter." The speaker's speech ended in stunned silence. No one believed his promises anymore. The fear had grown too real. Meanwhile, deep inside the human command center, technicians tracked the galaxy's reaction. The commander stood before a massive projection of alien-controlled space. Red markers lit up where panic had spread. "They're crumbling," one officer said quietly. The commander's expression remained cold. "Not yet," she replied. But soon, on a distant alien frontier world, night fell quietly. Farmers stared up at the stars, uneasy. Children whispered about the monsters from Earth that lived in the dark between stars. Somewhere above them, cloaked human ships drifted silently, watching, calculating their next move. The galaxy had united to wipe out humanity. They had burned their colonies, slaughtered their people, and declared themselves victorious. But now, the silence they had once celebrated had become their nightmare. Humanity was no longer a civilization on the defensive. They had become something far worse. The aliens had asked for monsters. And now, as fortress fleets spread through the stars, humanity was giving them exactly what they wanted, one silent, devastating strike at a time. The alien capital world had never known fear. For centuries, it stood as the heart of power, a planet covered in towering crystal spires, floating fortresses and fleets that filled its skies like endless storms. It was where empires rose, alliances were forged, and wars were decided. Every alien government, every species that had joined the Council, had sworn loyalty beneath its glowing towers. It was believed to be untouchable. No enemy had ever dared to approach it. Until now, late one cycle, as the world's twin moons rose, the night sky over the capital shimmered strangely. Military satellites detected faint anomalies on the edge of the system, brief distortions like ripples in space. Defense fleets were immediately scrambled. Thousands of warships moved into formation, surrounding the planet in concentric rings. High above the capital, massive defense stations powered up their shields and weapons. The speaker appeared on every broadcast channel, his voice firm. "Do not panic," he declared. "Our fleets are unmatched. No force can reach us here." But deep inside the command centers, officers whispered nervously. They had seen the reports from the border sectors. They had heard the last messages of entire fleets before they went silent. The humans had dismantled everything thrown at them with terrifying precision. If they had truly come for the capital, then even the strongest defenses might not be enough. Moments later, the anomalies grew stronger. Long-range scanners picked up dozens of massive objects sliding into the system, moving in perfect silence. No drive signatures, no broadcasts, no response to hails. The alien admiral in charge ordered immediate long-range strikes. Hundreds of warships unleashed their weapons into the void. Beams and torpedoes filled space, but nothing hit. The targets simply weren't where the sensors said they were. Then, without warning, they appeared. Black fortress ships, larger than dreadnoughts, decloaked simultaneously on all sides of the system. Their black hulls absorbed starlight, their silhouettes sharp and menacing. The alien fleets turned to engage, but the human ships moved first. Waves of kinetic lances cut through the outer defenses like knives through thin metal. Entire squadrons vanished in flashes of white light. The alien commander screamed orders, but panic was already spreading. The humans didn't use grand speeches or demands. They simply attacked. Their formation was flawless. They broke the first defensive ring in minutes. The second ring tried to regroup, but the fortress ships split their forces into multiple coordinated strikes, isolating fleets and overwhelming them. As the battle raged in space, the capital's skies began to darken. Civilians looked up as massive black shapes appeared beyond the clouds. Human strike ships had entered the atmosphere. They moved low and fast, avoiding anti-air defenses with impossible precision. Across the capital, alarms screamed as explosions lit the night. Government buildings shook as orbital strikes hit military command centers with pinpoint accuracy. Inside the council chamber, chaos erupted. Leaders shouted over each other. Some demanded evacuation. Others refused to believe the defenses were failing. The speaker tried to maintain control, but reports kept pouring in. Defense platforms destroyed, fleets scattered, ground bases neutralized. It was happening too fast. The enemy was everywhere at once. Far above the planet, the human commander watched the operation unfold through tactical projections. Every alien move was anticipated, every response counted before it could form. Years of silence, years of preparation had led to this. Her voice was calm as she gave the final order. Break their heart. In orbit, several fortress ships charged their main weapons. These were not planet killers. They were precision instruments of terror. Their kinetic rounds were aimed at key military and political sites. The shots ripped through layers of shields and struck with devastating accuracy. The Council's military headquarters vanished in a single blinding flash. Communication towers collapsed. Energy grids failed. The entire capital planet went dark. Civilians filled the streets in panic. The glowing towers that had once represented power now flickered and died. Ships tried to flee from the surface, but human strikecraft hunted them down with merciless efficiency. There was no negotiation, no warning, no hesitation. The humans weren't here to conquer the capital. They were here to break it. Within hours, the planet's defenses were shattered. The once mighty fleets that had protected it were reduced to burning wrecks, drifting in orbit. The council chamber, once the symbol of unity and strength, now shook as distant explosions echoed through the city. Power failed completely. The speaker sat in darkness, surrounded by terrified officials. For the first time in his life, he understood what it meant to be hunted. Above the planet, the human commander opened a channel. For the first time since the initial signal, humanity spoke to the galaxy again. Her voice was clear, calm, and merciless. "You wanted monsters," she said. "We remember every city you burned, every life you ended. Every world you silenced. You thought we were weak. You were wrong. The message was broadcast across every surviving communication network in the galaxy. Worlds light years away heard it in the middle of the night. Fleets deep in alien space stopped what they were doing to listen. Her voice continued. You wanted monsters. Now monsters guard this sky. Then the transmission ended. The human fleets didn't stay. They didn't occupy the planet. As quickly as they had arrived, they vanished back into the void, leaving only silence and devastation behind. The capital world lay in ruins, its fleets destroyed, its people terrified. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. The heart of their power had been struck, and the humans had walked away untouched. No one celebrated this time. There were no parades, no speeches of victory, only quiet dread. Every leader, every admiral, every civilian knew what it meant. If the humans could do this to the capital, they could do it to anyone. In the darkness beyond the stars, the fortress fleet regrouped. Their mission was not finished. This was not revenge, it was a demonstration. A single message burned itself into the memory of the galaxy. The age of easy victories was over. The monsters they had called for had arrived, and they were just getting started.